here with a tour, Cabot tour, 20 people from Montrose. This is a Cabot
this
site.
Is an active drilling site. So everything Mark talked about, you've seen elsewhere, is happening here. We will stage our water here. It'll then flow down all through piping, and it will hydraulically fracture the wells that we're drilling here. This is the Cosner pad. I believe this will have four wells drilled when they're completed. And again, I like to stop here because it gives you that aerial view. When you get down, it'll be difficult to actually see stuff. It's so big and you're really upon it. So we try to show it from here in the sense of getting an overview. So again,
this is George Stone.
When you talk about the rig itself, this rig is what's referred to as a triple rig. The pipe stand that you see going out, the black side of the pipe stand, has three 33-foot long pipe stands already joined together. So if you follow your eye up, you'll see one area where they gather together. You come up a little higher, that's the second area, hence the triple. You could have a double, you could have a single. And the questions would be, how much pipe can you pull down whole at once? We're able to take down 3 pipe stands at once on this site. It's all driven by horsepower, as you would imagine. So with this industry, what we have discovered is through safety, a lot of your problems would come in the handling of the equipment. So when we go down on the ground, you'll notice that really no one touches the pipe. The pipe is actually all rolled on and hydraulically lifted up to the pipe stand. So again, we know that that's where injuries would have happened in the past, wrenching of your back, pinching of a finger. So we've taken the human element as much as we can out of that. So again, it's all done through technology now. So that's just one idea of how the pipe stand gets up. Again, the triple, what you get to see from the back here, and again, if you look, you'll see a yellow front end loader, bulldozer off to the right hand side. You can see that. That is where we are doing our closed loop for the cuttings. The cuttings that we bring to surface, rather than burying on site, which is what we would have done, which is what this industry does. Here, given the size and the amount of water that you get in rainfall, when you build a reserve pit, you get a lot of water going into that reserve pit. Then you got to do something with the water.
So there's no more pit here on the site?
You won't see pits moving forward across our industry, across Cabot's footprint. We are not going to be building reserve pits. It makes more sense now to take those cuttings immediately to a strong box and ship them off to a landfill. So no more pits from the reserve pit notion. So again, we talk closed loop on the water side. We truck it in, it goes to container, it goes down hole, it comes back up, it goes into container. We've closed that loop. On the drilling side, we drill down, we bring it to the surface, it goes straight into a container, it goes straight to landfill. So again, that's more of that closed loop. It also reduces the footprint that we need to have on surface because we're not disposing of the cuttings at this location. Each lateral out will produce 1,000 tons of dirt, rocks. So again, you got 6 going out, and that's on average. So again, that's that much you don't have to have on site. We're working with DEP to make the cuttings itself would be what's referred to as daily cover. Landfills in Pennsylvania every day have to cover over the trash that's brought in. They have to take dirt and cover it over at the end of the day. We take them dirt that they put in the landfill, and then they cover over with dirt.
We were just thinking of Bradford County. They had actually, the Bradford County landfill, it's actually the Northern Tier Solid Waste Authority. Susquehanna is not a part of that, right? I don't think so. Bradford, Wyoming, Sullivan, I think Tioga, just those 4. They were actually using those cuttings for daily cover. It was working out extremely well for them. The DEP said, well, we're not so sure about that just yet. So they are looking at it again closer, but I do expect to see some activity on that. George, one of the things that we're talking about, I think they talked about those hauling tanks and whatnot, the CSDS, and that's a local provider. Correct. I mean, maybe you can't decide all of them, but I mean, there's a number of local providers involved in this plant right here, right now.
Absolutely not. And we're growing that number. However, we represent 400 full-time workers behind us. How do we do that? That's our business model. We oversee what the contractors do. So the rig is done through contracts. To Mark's point, Adam Diaz got his start in our business coming on site, hauling away just our refuse, not even cuttings, but truly the trash that was on site. And then he saw an opportunity and said, well, wait a minute, what if I bring in you rock? All this rock that we laid down, all the rock that's laid down is done through the local quarries. So we've got several quarries. We use Grungies, we use Diaz Pallet and Stone. I think it's Shopping down the Wyoming area. We are using all them. We're using all their local truck drivers to bring the stone in. Diaz has gone further, and now we saw the ridge we talked about earlier, drilling the top holes. Adam Diaz figured out that we needed that work done and has taken that on himself. He's taken the risk of going out and getting that auger, and now he's got his guys working that. Diaz, for us, has 136 employees as a result of Cabot's effort. So again, probably one of the best success stories that I could point to would be Adam coming on just to take away the trash recycling receptacles, to grow his business into the augering business, and now he handles all of our cutting business. Now it doesn't end there, because it would be, I don't know that. The question was on the elevation from kickoff plastic belt. The biggest issue we face is all the equipment you're going to see, and it's better to have this conversation here, because when we get down, the generators will take away our sound. All this is operating on diesel. This equipment runs 24
All operated
hours
24 hours a day,
7 days a week.
7 days a
The crew
week
that runs the rig,
on diesel.
their shifts are 12-hour shifts for 2 weeks. So they work 12-hour day, they're on rest for 12 hours, and then they're working again for 2 weeks. Then they're off for 2 weeks. So they live on site. This operation from the drilling never ceases. The equipment does break down. We have definitely had O-rings fail, and then you'll lose 10 gallons on the surface of diesel. Those are the things that we fear the most. So that's why you put all the containment, and you'll see subsequent containment in areas where we know there's a high probability of a spill. So you want to lay out the whole location from a containment, and then where Adam's working the cutting, there's additional containment. And then they'll be on the opposite side, there will be where we actually store the diesel. You'll see tubs around them to capture. Surface spills are our biggest enemy. We think them through, we don't get them all. I would be lying to you. But I will tell you, from a standpoint of hydraulically fracturing a well, we are not seeing any contamination from going underground and out. The DEP has been here, the EPA has been here. We, Cabot, hosted EPA in 2008. They came out and witnessed one of our fractures. And there was no problem with what they saw in our operation. The nation is across the board. This industry has fractured about 1,000,001 wells. You're not seeing, at the depth of where we are, water making its way back to surface. It is not occurring. So where our problem is surface though. And we've had our problems at surface. We've had our problems at sites like this where we'll spill on surface, and we had a pad site where we were developing, and we had 3 in a row. What we're trying to do though is definitely engineer so we don't run into that problem. But it is a concern. It's what we face the most and where we want to make certain that we don't have problems. But I would be lying if I said we have not. We had 3 on the one site, an operation like this, We were staging water from one area to the next. We were bringing it over an elevation up and down. And we created a water hammer effect. When that water came through the pipeline, it blew off the valve and the fitting. Now remember, the water is also mixed with sand. Imagine that water going down those pipelines. You can, the abrasiveness is something else to think about. So again, now we have a better understanding through that evolution of how often we need to change the equipment out. But we did. In a 24-hour period from one day to the next, it ran over 2 days. It was a 24-hour period. We had 3 surface problems with hydraulic fracturing gel. There was a spill. It was contained on site, but it was a black eye, no doubt about it. So again, we're making certain that when we build these sites, from that incident, we put forward 27 different engineering standards as a result. So again, the people that Janice and I work with wake up every morning trying to figure out how to do this right. I hope if anything today we get that point across. Again, we're not always going to agree, and Vera and I have had our conversations on different points. We will try to strive to show you though that we want to be as open and honest as we can be. And again, I welcome any questions that you have as we proceed. I just know as we get closer, the hearing's going to be harder.
George, can I ask you one?
Election every day of stopping and saying, okay, what's going right, what's going wrong, what do we need to be concerned about? We're going to have snow, let's take this into effect. We're going to get a change in barometric pressure, let's think about that. So again, that safety meeting happens once a day for each crew going on. Janice talks about the equipment, the clothing that we wear. All the workers have fire retardant clothing that they're wearing. You'll see areas where you can't wash out the equipment you're using, wash out your hands, have eye spray. You'll see several areas where you'll have fire extinguishers. Once again, we're looking to ensure that the safety of our workers is job one. And again, we then have our own audit of surprise inspections, and then the state has their own likewise. So again, we're complying with those at the same time. Am I missing anything that you can think of? All right.
George, can I just ask you about radioactivity in the drill cuttings?
Yes.
Is there any radioactivity?
Yes, there is. Yes. Susquehanna County, as it goes, has a very high background level of arsenic. I don't know if you know that, but just as background for arsenic, it's here. So when we drill through it, we drill through it. So we're going to find arsenic in our cuttings no more than you would find as your normal background. Likewise, when you think of your granite countertops at home or any of the buildings that are laid out in New York that were owned straight from a quarry, that's where your naturally occurring radiation comes from. The earth is radioactive. It's called norm, naturally occurring radioactive material. So when we introduce the drill bit through the earth at 10,000 feet, we're going to go through that radiation, that radioactive material. We bring it back on to the surface through the cuttings. There is no higher percentage, there is no greater concentration because you're bringing it to the surface. It doesn't interact with one another to make it any higher. In addition to that, when this goes off, Keystone Landfill, you might be aware of, that's one of the ones we go to, they wand all of our loads that they receive. And they're not having any issues with radioactivity either because they're not permitted to take it. So we take a sample ourselves. Keystone Landfill is just one example, takes a sample themselves. We're not seeing any increase at all in radioactivity. So those are the things we're always looking for. The other thing to talk about is the drill bit itself. We didn't really hit upon this, but when you drill, we have to get the cuttings back out. And you do that by a drill bit going down What we refer to as mud is what has the drill bit all around it. That mud creates viscosity to bring to the surface the cuttings. So instead, like when I drill through a 2x4, I create a lot of sawdust that sort of just finds itself to the surface. In our operations, you're drilling through, you're cutting it, you're crushing that earth, but around it is the cuttings float back to the top. And what you see here are a series of boxes in the back. Those cuttings come up, intermixed with what we call drilling mud. That drilling mud is then shaped. The drilling mud goes back down hole. It's a 100% closed loop system likewise. It's recycled, and then the cuttings are separated. They fall off into the strong boxes. They get then taken off site.
But you still use the mud for the in the drilling part of it for heat take recovery, so the drill bit doesn't overheat.
Correct. Good point. The question is that the mud that the drill bit is in. Number one, the drill bit at all points knows what it's going through. It has sensors on it that'll tell you pressure readings, what type of soil it's going through. If it has a show of gas at 200 feet, it tells us that. It also has pressure readings along it. So as it goes down, it's going to tell you the pressure as to how fast you're drilling, how slow you're drilling, and the pressure of your mud. You want it stabilized. So if you're drilling and all of a sudden you lose pressure, that's telling you that your mud's going somewhere. It's either going out or it's coming up. So again, then you therefore make the changes necessary on that. But you're also pulling the drill bit head as well as allowing those cuttings to come up around the side. So again, that's what in the industry is called drilling mud, and that's how we get the rock surface.
One other thing you work it's not specific to Cabot, but a lot of times on these sites will be a small containment area that's lined, and what that's for is when a preset rig will require to wash out the cement tanks after they've cemented in the well. A lot of people have accused us of that being flowback, but what it is water and cement clean out the trucks so the trucks don't get seized up after they cement. And then once the cement job is done, the vacuum truck comes in and takes that water and cement. So if you do see a small containment, that's what it is to wash out the cement.
We'll walk our way down it. Again, any questions after. This crew, R&W, has an office. You might see if you go south on 29 in Montana. They're another company that's come up here and built this. They used to be in the landfill business. Once again, landfills need to be lined with plastic. That was the business they were in. They know that we're doing this, so they're the guys that come in and lay this plastic down. Something to think about. We lay plastic like this, several layers down. It's all bermed around. We do that for the drilling process, which is taking place right now. Once all 4 wells are drilled here, or 6 wells, whichever the number is, this rig comes down, it gets taken out. At that point, we pull up all the plastic. We're going to come in and complete the well. We lay down all new plastic again. Because I don't know if Mark's crew left something underneath that site. I want to know it before I come on as another subcontractor and do the completions work. So it just is easier to tear up, take the plastic out, and lay new plastic down. The cost of laying plastic down once is $80,000. That whole operation, to lay it down, to build it, is $80,000. You pick it up, throw it away, do it again from a completion standpoint. So any staining we're looking for, that's what we're doing though. That's not something that's called for in the regulations whatsoever. Even the new regulations don't require this extent of operation. But again, this is what we do. So again, on the right hand side is where the mud units are that send the fluid down with the drill bit. They're coming back up and they're going to strong boxes. So up front, you'll start to see a lot of the units that are diesel powered. Just the generators that run the rig. If we get a chance, you'll see the blowout preventer. It is underneath. It would be between the 2 skids itself. The benefit for us is if there was ever some sort of shift somebody asked me about an earthquake. If you had that happen, if you had some sort of natural issue or just a well issue itself, our blow-off preventer is on surface. You can always get to it. So that's the difference in the Gulf where it's so far down. We don't have that issue. Ours are here. You won't have a chance, but Jerry Duga is our drilling superintendent. He goes every 3 months to training on blow-off prevention. That's what he oversees. So again, you can't see it from here, but it's right underneath the rig. Questions from this standpoint? Again, I just know as we get closer, it gets louder. We'll walk our way to front. I don't like what's looking up there.
These are
a particular tool. Yeah, something like this.
Well,
Threading or anything.
yeah, a little bit.
No, but it's moving down there.
This is the
Where they stick together. This is what you're going to be putting about to the gas. Yes.
What happens is, and I'm seeing is the female-male version of the pipe strings, tying them together, realizing that each one gets smaller as you go down hole. You got your surface casing at 23 inches, then you go down to a smaller size. Ultimately, we're running 4 strings of casing down through one another. And there is guys you can rattle off how big your first one is, your second one, your third one, your fourth one. It's not something that I've yet mastered. So
loggers, we're making a log what's going out in the hole at each foot. So our job is to make sure they're in the Marcellus so we can get the gas out, get it, be in the right place. That's mainly what we do. We know all the formations as we go down, and once we get lateral, we want to stay in the lower Marcellus. That's what we do. We make these logs. We got examples of them. We have all the formations. Here we have pictures down there of rocks, pictures that we've taken. So that's
How often do you pull samples?
we do it as often as we can, 10 foot and 10 feet. If they're drilling too fast, sometimes we gotta catch 20 foot samples. So it's often as we can. We bring them in, we wash them, put them in these sample trays, look at them under the microscope, describe it. We have a right description of the rock, color, hardness, that sort of thing. We also monitor the gas that comes out of the hole. We got a polyflow tube that runs from our trailer down on the end. We have a tube that runs all the way to the possum belly where the mud comes out, the drill and stuff. This red line here is the gas that we track. So
we need to move in. If you can't hear them,
yeah, we work 12-hour shifts. 2-gallon nights, 2-gallon days, Gary River.
So where's your computer readout coming to your office? You have connections with the processor?
Yeah, we have our offices in there. We get this information. This is our rate of penetration. We don't get all the parameters from there. We have a computer. Well, everybody has a computer that gets that information, and then we have the software on our computer that tracks that and puts it onto here.
It might be interesting to let people know what training you've gone through to get to this point where you can all do this job.
Right. So all of us up here have bachelors in geology, some sort. Some have masters. We have to go through a training course down in Texas, where Selman's headquarters are. So we do that, and then go to the engineers, start learning the geology over here.
Do you ever test for radioactivity? Do you ever find any or test for radioactivity?
No, we don't look for that.
You don't look for the radioactivity?
These are just logs we kind of just made up, so this is what they look like.
So that's what is that actually?
This is Marcellus, this rock here. There's another piece down there. These came from New York, I believe.
Oh, from New York?
Yeah,
They're not from here?
The field trip in New York, right? I think
It comes out outcrops in New York State. It comes right out to the surface.
To the surface?
I think we just picked that up off the ground. So
That's from the ground.
yeah, this is more of a paperweight than anything.
A paperweight, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So this 3,900 feet, 3,950.
Right, yeah, so we track it by depth. We put, a little 10-foot increments. So however fast, here we were catching 30s. They were drilling fast, so we catch them every 30 feet. That's why there's descriptions are spaced out.
Neat.
Do you have any pits here now for the drilling mud, or
Any pits?
yeah, next to the rig?
No, they went to a closed loop system.
Now it's closed loop over
Yeah,
here?
everybody's doing closed loop now.
So he's a contractor. He doesn't work for Cabot.
Right.
Right,
Say.
it's a subcontract.
Yeah, what they are is mud loggers. Their only responsibility really is to, every so many feet, analyze what is in that rock. So they can share that with their in-house drillers, and they can share it with the, I guess, the tool guy, tool pusher, as well as the drilling super, anybody that needs it.
Anyone who wants to know, we tell them.
They're mapping where that drill bit's going. That's their sole responsibility.
And what are they actually looking for? What are you trying to avoid or not, or go through?
He's not doing anything other than telling them this is what you're into. This
This is what you're into. So what are they
This is what
looking
he's
for
telling you
from
right
that?
here.
Right. So what do they surmise from all that when they look at your data?
Well, they already have a pretty good idea of where the Marcellus is, so they're
just trying to find the Marcellus?
right. And they know where it is. They go there, and we just tell them what they're seeing along the way, basically. We've got all the formations here. You can look at them.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, the acid is to tell a limestone will fill
That's
with acid,
limestone.
right?
Oh.
So we use that. This is something that we like your Tully and Purcell or limestones. So we can tell.
What are those formations there?
We have all their labeled here. We got
Oh, okay, cool.
as you go down.
That's going down. That's
Right.
increasing depth.
Yeah,
Neat. Okay.
Is that what you're finding here? Actually here?
And we've also got them in those little jars.
Little jars too?
Same formation. Then we have those jars on there are the mud additives that they add to the mud. We just have those on hand so we can, if we see something, we'll know what it is.
This, for certain
These are all
reasons,
the mud additives that they
laid
put in
up.
the mud.
they use bayrite. You may not have the bayrite here. There it is. They use the bayrite to weight up the mud to get a better mud weight. And then just certain the mud engineers decide what they put in.
Yeah.
We just use this. We just have our samples of that just so we do get seismic data. Some of it will show roughly about how far down certain formations are.
I think it had button